Hi everyone, Raphael Harry here, and you're listening to White Label American, a podcast where we hear stories from an immigrant or two, sometimes more. Thank you for listening and enjoy the show. Welcome to another episode of White Label American. Thank you all for joining us today. Before we begin, I'd like to give a shout out to my patrons. Thank you for your support. Without you, we wouldn't be here. And to all our new listeners today, we invite you to join us if you can. For as little as $3 a month, you can help us push this podcast to the next level and help us continue to build community. And if you want to do a one-time donation, you can also do that on Patreon, any amount you want. If you can spare up to 100 million like Jeff Bezos, we welcome that. We're not going to say no. So we have a lot of stuff we're going to do down the line. We're going to expand the team. So yes, we welcome every donation counts. We also have t-shirts being made by vetclothing.com. So whatever your color is, go over there, vetclothing.com. Get your t-shirts, White Label American Podcast. You get it there. And if you can't get the t-shirts and, join us on Patreon right now, you can always go on Apple or iTunes or Apple Podcast or iTunes and give us 5 stars and write a positive review. And you can do that as many times as possible and push us up the algorithm, help us go up as high as possible because we're competing with a lot of big podcasters who got money, who got, large sponsors behind them. So it's tough for the independent podcaster like myself, So help a brother out there, okay? Keep liking, sharing, and subscribing. Share with your friends, share on social media, push us out there. So with that being said, I have the honor and the pleasure of introducing a super duper awesome guest who the first time I heard this brother, I was like, man, this guy's voice alone is just, I got to bring this man here. And then I found out he's a great storyteller. I was like, wow. And then I found out he's a content creator. I'm like, wow. Then I found out he's also into educating. I was like, wow. And then I found out he has soccer skills. I was like, wow. I'm like, this man, he's also a philosopher. I'm like, what? Where did this man go? And then I found out he might be one of the tallest people I know too. That's a different thing entirely, but I just have to throw that in there. But yes, today's guest is a special brother. First time I've had somebody in this part of the world, and it's a part of the world I should have visited while I was in the Navy, but I would say different. I'll tell you why I didn't go there. I was so ignorant back then. But without much being said, I welcome Siaji Otieno, better known as Kikombe, and he will break all that down to us. And he's into photography, videography, voiceovers, storytelling. Has the skills of an MC. He's a co-host of the African Proverbs, Daily Proverbs on Clubhouse. He's a content creator, YouTuber, everything creative. This brother got it. So welcome, my brother. How you doing today?
Oh, I think after that kind of intro, man, I think I'm feeling blessed. I don't even know if I'm saying I'm doing it great. I think I'm showered with all these compliments of blessings. I almost can imagine why you call yourself White Label American, man. You've thrown in all these labels on me, man. I appreciate that. I cannot tell you. But first of all, before I say how I'm doing, I have to apologize to anybody who's listening in.
Oh no, it's not live. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. It's not live.
I'm gonna apologize to anybody who will listen to this later and be disappointed with that kind of intro if it doesn't live up to the expectations. So, but I'm doing great, and thank you for asking, brother.
Oh, it's all good. It's all good, my brother.
Yeah, man.
The honor is all mine. I love having people from, when I started this podcast, the initial goal was to only have, the initial plan was to have just immigrants in the New York space and people who are found interesting to come up here and break down artificial walls using their experience to help us learn. And, the pandemic happened and, immigrants all around the world got stories, got experiences that we could all learn from. And that's how the podcast expanded, and that's why I'm blessed to be able to reach out to you where you are today. So let's dive in. And before we go to your origins, well, as part of your origins, you have two beautiful names, Siaji Otieno.
Yeah.
I said it right. Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely, man.
Okay,
I love it. You should see the smile on my face.
I almost thought I messed it up there. So, can you break down the meanings of Siaji Otieno and then the Kikombe that we all know you by? So let's start with Siaji Otieno first.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I think it's fair to start with Siaji Otieno. I will start with Otieno because it's fairly easy to state. Otieno, it comes from our Luo tribe. The Luo are some Nilots. We're Nilots along the Nile River of Africa. Oh. And the word Otieno actually means born at night. So our customs say that you're sometimes named based on the season or the time of day, or somebody that you were born after, if it's a grandfather or grandmother.
Yes.
And so it happens that I was born at night, and so my name became Otieno. The O of Otieno, the O signifies that I'm a male child. If it was Atieno, then that is the lady that was born at night. My daughter is actually Atieno because she was born at night. Interestingly, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Wow. So Otieno means I was born at night, and it means, that was the time of day I was born. There are so many diverse names, but the other name is actually very interesting, Siaji. Siaji is, from what I understand, brother, Siaji means the blessed one. So I've got blessings coming with me. I have no idea what the origin of the name is.
Yeah.
But I can tell you that in Kenya, if I hear somebody called Siaji, immediately it rings to me that this is somebody I'm either related to or somebody from a very close origin to my circle.
Wow.
You would be very surprised at the few people called Siaji in Kenya.
Wow, that's fascinating.
So
it's not like a tribal name that just anybody.
No.
So it has to be
very unique.
Really, wow. Okay.
It's very unique to a set groups of people. Either it's because of my big head, I have no idea. Either it's because of my height. Don't mention it. I have no idea. But yeah, it's very unique to a very set group of people from Kenya. And interestingly, I've got to tell you this. I traveled to Southeast Asia and I found people or somebody called Siaji in Indonesia.
Yes. That is not a surprise to me.
And it means teacher. Apparently, it means teacher or somebody with a lot of knowledge. So either it's a sort of like poetic justice that I became an educator, which again, I've just disclosed it, or I don't know, like it's just destiny beckoning me in some sort of way.
Wow. You see, that's why I'm so happy that I adopted this question and added it, because when I began the podcast, this wasn't part of the questions that were on my mind to ask. And it wasn't even a question that I used to ask a few years ago, because if I used to ask this question a few years ago, I probably would have named my daughter from my daughter's. Well, maybe she would have had like 7 names. She probably.
Siaji is a good name. Yeah, man. Siaji is a good name, brother.
But now that I think back, because the only thing my daughter was born on a Thursday, so I took that from the Ghanaian roots. So she's because that's born on a Thursday. I was born. I
love that.
I was born on Monday, so I'm Kojo. So
cool. I love that.
Yeah. And
I love that.
Yeah, those are the 2 days I remember, because okay. I was with my Ghanaian boy on Friday, and he was telling me because he just had his daughter, and He told me. I think
Yeah.
she was born on Saturday. I keep forgetting. Amma. Is it Amma or Aya? I'm something. I've forgotten. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's not me, so I don't remember it. If you know me, I don't. Yeah, I remember when I need to remember.
Yeah.
And
It will come.
yeah, it will come. But it's so beautiful how sometimes we see the connections. There's so many threads that connect us with other places, and I love how
Yeah, man.
you saw Siaji, because I wouldn't be surprised if at one point in time I've seen a Siaji also from another continent, and
Very,
but it's just
very.
like I wouldn't place, I wouldn't register it. But the moment you said you've seen Siaji in with
In
someone from
Indonesia.
Indonesia, I was like, I'm not
If
surprised. It didn't surprise me. It didn't come as a shock to
yeah,
me because
yeah,
I'm not someone in that part of the world,
yeah.
and
It was
I've
in
seen names.
Indonesia, and I think I saw another one in Nepal.
Nepal,
Weirdly, in Nepal. Yeah.
nice.
Very, very weird. But I'm sure there's a story behind it. And perhaps this should be one of my projects,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'll be a lovely project,
Mm.
connecting names. And you had mentioned earlier, born at night. When you were talking about Otieno, representing born at night. So what is a child called that's born during the daytime?
Ochieng.
Otieng.
Interestingly, my
Oh,
daughter, I've got two daughters,
yes.
Achieng and Atieno.
Ah.
Chieng means the sun or sunshine or summer.
Oh,
So
okay.
basically, somebody who is born in the daytime is Ochieng or Achieng.
Oh, so
So
that's with the
that
CH
IENG.
IENG.
A lot of
Okay.
times they'll put like a
Oh, I've
hyphen
seen that
after the
name.
G.
I've seen
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
Achieng. Yeah,
Ah.
so Ochieng or Achieng, those are names that you would find amongst the Luo people and along the Lake Victoria.
I think someone in the Navy with me who had that
Mm.
name. Now I'm thinking back the way I saw that name. Yeah.
Wasn't my brother. I'm just saying, wasn't my brother. No, don't ask me. No,
No,
that one
I
is
wasn't
one of the
going that route.
common ones.
It wasn't. I can't recall the person's first name, but it was just. But it's just something
Yeah.
that wow. But yeah, this podcast has taught me so much when it comes to names. But wow, that is
But
wow.
brother, I'll go to the Kikombe, and this one might let me explain the Kikombe in two parts of it, because
Okay.
there's three parts of it, but I don't think we have enough time for the third part, because every single part of it has a story.
Oh, okay.
The word Kikombe is a Swahili word, and it means a cup,
Swahili.
right?
Okay.
And the philosophy behind this name goes with the idea that I believe that whatever you're taking into your system from a cup is meant to transform you. Whatever you're drinking in is meant to transform you. And that is the philosophy around Kikombe. So if you're drinking tea, if you're drinking wine, if you're drinking water, if you're drinking whatever it is,
yes,
you bring it into your system. You're either thirsty, or you want to feel refreshed, or you want to change how you're feeling at that time. And that is the idea around Kikombe. So I see what I have to share as the cup. I see what I have to share as the contents of the cup.
Yes.
Every single interaction I make with people is the interaction that I hope to transform people's ideologies on life, whether they're learning or whether I am learning. So really, it's the cup. So after people have come across, or I have met people in life, I hope, and it's my will, that these people will be transformed. And that is the philosophy around Kikombe. That's the first definition of the philosophy around Kikombe.
Okay.
The second definition is an acronym. And it's a very long story towards where I came up with these acronyms, but I will explain the acronyms. Knowledge is the first K, is knowledge. The I is information. The other K is keenness. The other K, the O is open-mindedness. The M is for mindfulness. The B is for balance. E is education or enlightenedness. And I can explain them briefly, all of them. First K is for knowledge, because I believe that everybody you meet, just like Bill Nye the Science Guy mentions, everybody you meet knows something that you don't.
True.
Regardless of who they are.
Yeah.
Everybody you meet has got knowledge and content that you can learn from every single interaction you have with them. I'm coming into this conversation because I know I will learn something. For example, I learned the idea of the word Amma, the name Amma, just now. You know, I learned the idea that you're traveling.
Go with yeah. Yeah is more guaranteed one.
Yeah, right?
Yeah,
or the idea
Thursday.
that you will be traveling soon to another continent, right? That's the idea around knowledge. Then the I is inquiry or information. I believe in asking questions. I believe in inquiring in my head about my interactions with people. And so I believe that the people that are speaking with me, just like you're having a conversation with me now, have got that power to inquire more about my experiences in my life and their experiences in their life and my experiences in whatever journey in life I'm going through. Then there is the other K, which is keenness. If you're not paying attention, you will miss it, right? So if I'm not paying attention to you, if I don't have all my full attention to you, my brother, I'll miss it. And so that is how I go into every conversations with that philosophy. The O is open-mindedness. And this is one of my favorite. Open-mindedness with the idea that I don't care what religion you're from. I don't care what your sexual orientation is, don't care about your race, don't care what your preferences in life are. When my attention is with you, when you have your attention for me, we will have a conversation, we will interact, and again, it will go back to the first one, we will learn from each other. The M is for mindfulness. We all strive to be mindful of the way we interact with people. When you share something that is valuable to me and I value it, I will appreciate that. I will be thankful. When I have to share conversations that you and I have had, then I can request for you if I can share the same. So I'm being mindful.
Yes.
I'm just aware of my environment. Just the same way, you know, when you, before you made this recording, you mentioned to me, hey, I'm going to record this and this and this and this thing. So that is the idea of being mindful, because, you know, to share people's stories, mindfulness is really important. And for you to receive other people's stories so that you can sort of internalize them, mindfulness is also important. For you to be aware about your environment, mindfulness is really important.
Yes.
The B is balance. There is time to dance. There is time to fall down. There is time to run. There is time to walk. There is time to laugh. And there is time to cry. There's time to sing. And there's time to wail. And that's the idea of balance. You share stories of laughter. You share stories that are tragical. You share stories that are comical. And you share stories that are disappointing, where the villain will win. And that is the beauty and diversity of life. The final one is education or enlightenment, where you want to go to sleep or you want to leave every conversation, just like the first one on knowledge, you leave every conversation knowing that you have gone to sleep enlightened. You want to leave every single day of your life, if the universe has given you a chance to experience the sun, when you go down and lay down, you want to feel and say, I learned this today. So my interaction with you, my brother Raphael, when I leave this conversation, I want to leave this conversation saying, I feel enlightened now. Already I've got 3 or 4 things that I've learned about you, and I mentioned them earlier, but that is the journey of enlightenment. So knowledge, information or inquiry, keenness, open-mindedness, mindfulness, balance, and education or enlightenment.
I already feel enlightened just from hearing that. Like we can end the episode now, but you know. I love this brother, man. I love you, man.
I'm not sure if that is a compliment or.
No, seriously. No, seriously, I love you because this why I just had to bring you here. This is why I had to bring you on the show because yeah, people gonna see why I just had to bring you because man, this guy.
No, I love listening to you, man. I don't know if anybody is listening in here, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, brother. If anybody is listening in here, you need to come into Clubhouse and listen to the kinds of interactions that me and my brother Raphael have. There's fun, there is there is laughter, there's learning, there's history, and there's lessons on politics, there's lessons on diversity of the world. Everything is in there. It's like a whole cocktail of experience. So I love listening to you, and it just gives me so much pleasure in learning. But yeah, sorry to interrupt you, brother.
That's fine. That's fine. I learned a new thank you yesterday. So I said barang. It's from the Manjaku. So I learned that yesterday. So
thank you.
You already gave us an insight into the next question I'll be asking. So can you introduce us to Siaji's place of birth and what was his childhood like?
Ooh, how much time do we have?
Hey, just give us the brief version. We'll later on we can have another episode where we'll do a longer version on this.
Absolutely, brother. Yeah, straight up. I was born and raised in Kenya. So, and as a child, I was born in Nairobi.
Okay.
My father worked for a university, and my mother worked for an electrical cable company. And so, you know, when you hear that my father worked for a university, you sort of assume that this was somebody who grew up a flamboyant kind of lifestyle. No, it doesn't look like that. And if you're somebody from good old Africa, you probably understand. Yeah. And similarly, if you hear that my mother worked for an electrical company, obviously it hits you and says, "Oh man, no wonder, you know, he's got so much to share." No. It was a lifestyle full of a lot of privilege, but also a lifestyle full of learnings in the aspect of you're around people with a lot of money, but you're also living in abject poverty. So that was kind of, if I have to put it to you in a nutshell, that is the kind of experience that I had. You know, you have the privilege of going to a swimming pool every weekend, but also have the privilege of going to bed hungry. So that it's such a paradox, but it's a reality of the experience that I grew up with, and that is it. At 13 years old in 1993, my father got transferred to a different province in a different university, and so we moved to Kisumu, which is his maternal place.
Okay,
and that's the Lake region. And to be honest with you, that has been one of my most eye-opening experience of me as a human being, because that is the moment where you realize that bills have to be paid. That's the moment that you realize that electricity actually costs money. And that's the moment that you realize that, oh, you know what, a 13-year-old needs to cater for their family and household and so on and so forth. And also realize that education is also important and not just a walk in the park for everybody else.
Yeah.
So in a nutshell, that is how, that's where I was born. And that's sort of my childhood up to when I was 13. It goes deeper, but I'm not sure how much time you have, brother.
Well, I might dive back in a way, because when you mentioned university grant, wait, before I even go further, I'm just a little bit curious about the Kenyan universities. Are they like federal government owned, or is it like, okay? Because when you say your father was transferred, that just popped in my head. Like, yeah, that sounded like Nigerian federal universities.
It's really weird because most universities at they sort of called top universities. I don't agree with that ideology that some universities are better than the others. But most of the universities that they call the top universities are government owned.
Yeah,
and then there are those private universities that come that are sort of the moneyed university or the wealthy students kind of universities.
Yeah, it's
But
kind
yeah,
of changing now in Nigeria. It used to be like, so the equivalent of the Ivy League schools in Nigeria, where the private, where the some of the federal universities like University of Ibadan, UNN in the east, University of Nsukka, Kano. One of them was where Thabo Mbeki, I've forgotten which one he attended, because he was he was in exile in Nigeria for some years.
Right.
So when he had to run away from the apartheid government, I think it was Lagos he attended, either Lagos or Ibadan, and he was on scholarship from Nigerian government. So those, you go to the top universities. Those were like the top universities. But now the private universities are getting bigger, and they're getting more funding. So most kids go there because there's no strikes from the federal. The lecturers who are not paid, they don't go on strike in the private universities.
I think when you mention the word strike, you might have to elaborate, because
okay.
I think when somebody's listening to the word strike, to them they think just people downing their tools and just going back home.
Well, that's literally what happens. People like, we haven't been paid, we haven't been promised pay raises for how long, and we don't receive it. So the lecturers. Put in notice, we're not going to come to work for sometimes. I know a period was like almost 2 years. There were no classes at a certain university. Students protesting. An episode that by the time your episode comes out, this episode will already be out. A classmate of mine, he's now teaching in South Africa at the university. He was one of the student activists who had to go through he had to face trial for something.
Really?
So as soon as you mentioned your dad transferring, some of those memories came to mind. But also another thing that came to mind was a good friend of mine while I was in secondary school. He used to live on he was the person who made me come to University of Ibadan. I was living in Ibadan then as a teenager, and I used to go to University of Ibadan a lot. His dad worked for the library, which was the first time I saw a library. I was 17. That was the first time I walked into a library, because I already read about libraries in storybooks and all that. But if you had met me, you would think that this guy has been into libraries. Like, nah, where the library at? Who got library?
I lived in a library.
But it was one day his dad who had hooked him up with a job, or he had to cover for somebody at the library, one of the students who had a job there. And that's when I went there and people are reading. That's what I said. Why they all quiet? It's a library, man. Oh, this is what they call library. It looked different from the storybooks. Well, I see all these American storybooks. Yeah. So coming on the campus and seeing his dad worked. I think his dad was a janitor or something, but his dad had worked there for almost 40 years. There was no money. They were nothing close to wealthy, nothing, But it introduced me to a whole lot of people who came from, elite backgrounds, and it opened a different world to me. And I was able to hang in that world because I knew stuff. I was into current affairs, so I was able to raise my shoulder. But yeah, we didn't like to call ourselves poor. We didn't like, we tried not to, but it brought me, that you just took me there. Like, we were poor. We were poor, but we tried not to, we tried like, we could rub shoulders with the rich. And then when it's time for them to, let's go buy drinks and, we'll start looking for an excuse to disappear. Yeah. Oh, I gotta go do something over here. I'll meet you guys in 10 minutes. You ain't showing up. You disappear. Find a way.
I feel you, brother.
So that took me down there. But yeah, it was a whole eye-opening moment too for me. So yeah,
I feel that. I like that. Yeah, I feel like you and I should sit down one day and just share about our childhood memories for as long as we want. And I'm not sure how much room we have for that, because that would be a lot of tea to drink,
it is a lot of tea coffee to drink. Yeah. So with that being said, there's still something I want from your childhood memories. I
Yes,
want
please.
your favorite childhood memories. Where does it come from, and what do you consider your favorite childhood memories? At this, I know, like if it's someone like me, it changes every now and then. But for you, what would you give us as your favorite childhood memories right now?
You just given me an answer there. You said, like from somebody like you, it changes every now and then. I was just speaking with a friend of mine the other day, and we were talking about how it's so amazing that up to this time in life, there is no museum of smell.
Smell.
There's no single museum where you can go in and smell something like, deep fried tilapia.
Wow.
And it's just put somewhere where you can smell it, right? Because I've always believed that smell brings such weird memories. Like it brings you with it a lot of memories with them, because there are sensations, like feelings and sensations they're very distinct to some part of your specific childhood memory, or not childhood, but specific experience in life.
Yes.
But anyway, to answer your question, yes, it changes every time, but some distinct ones I think I can remember school holidays. As I mentioned earlier, I was born in Nairobi, and we would go to the village in our school holiday. It would all take our luggage and our beds and everything, mattresses, and huddle them back in the back of a minibus or a bus. We called them matatu. I'm not sure if you've heard this. Yeah, and we would put them on a matatu, and we would travel up country to Kisumu or Yala. Yala is part of the Nyanza province around the lake as well, or the Kano Plains, and along the plains along the riverbanks of the River Nyando, which is where my maternal grandmother came from. And most of this we would do in either April holiday, August holiday, or December holiday. And every time we would do this, we would be going to visit our grandmother, and we would have big family reunions, where we would stay up as late as we can, drinking tea. Like milk tea was a big deal back then, which I don't drink anymore. I just drink black tea. And that's one of the best memories, of just sitting around the fire and just chatting, and our grandmother telling us stories, and our uncles coming in and scaring us with all these stories about when they went along the coast of Kenya and saw sharks and fought with dolphins. And one day they were walking in the jungle, and they pulled the elephant trunk out of its elephant. And it's just an amazing kind of part of diverse and oral storytelling that I distinctly remember. And those are some of my favorite memories.
So, did you have any uncle that was over exaggerating their stories, or
we had those. We had an uncle that went and fought the lion and came back with the lion's whiskers.
I had an uncle who was a hunter. We had an uncle who was a hunter who killed an elephant. He had the skull and the trunks in his house, like he made it like a shrine. And it was a claim to fame. But you also had those uncles who were like, man, let me tell you, when I was 12, I was a 400-meter holder in the whole region of Ghana. And when there was this one, I was one night. Why were you on the river at the middle of the night? Nobody knows. And I saw the mermaid. The mermaid showed up. I was like, oh, the mermaid came from the right. I went to the left.
Yeah, they were like, mermaids.
What? How did you know it was a mermaid? Well, let me tell you, you don't want to ask questions. I just went and. Like now I want to ask questions. Like, okay, how do we know when the mermaid is? What do we do? Why do you want to ask questions? Let me tell you the story. Just listen. Like, okay, but now we want to know.
Yeah, we had those uncles as well. The uncles that were always the best at school.
Oh yeah,
the uncles that had all the girlfriends at the age of 12. It's a weird kind of exaggeration. And I feel like they still exist.
They do
to this day.
They do. All you gotta do is buy them a shot of their favorite drink, the local schnapps. We buy that, and then it's oh, this young man, this is what we are talking. This youth, this one knows. He knows. He knows how to respect the elders. Now, let me tell you, my young man. When I was your age, and it starts to come out, like, oh boy, it's coming.
I cannot believe that it's the same kind of phrase that they begin with all the time. When I was your age,
when I was your age.
Listen to me. I could do this, you know.
I took on 5 elephants in one night. So like, bro, Uncle, tone it down. Like, we've seen you, man. Look, we see your shape right now. Like, come on, man. Like, oh, you don't believe me? You don't believe me? Go ask this man over there. Man, that man has died. That man died like 20 years ago.
Yeah, man. I know. I feel you. Yeah. It's a weirdly common pattern of storytelling from our uncles. I don't know what can happen.
It's different from when the aunties tell stories.
Yeah.
The grandmother says there's a difference, a big difference from the uncles. Yeah. I don't know why.
It's almost like the uncles were preparing you for this kind of heroism.
Yeah.
That was either it was far-fetched or they wanted you to see yourself as this kind of hero or be brave to a certain point of life. And I'm wondering if that is kind of a pattern that was built with our forefathers. But again, that's a story for another day. But yeah, I'm just amazed that it's the same kind of pattern. When I was your age, this is what I was able to accomplish. Look at you now, just sitting there, staring at the gulch.
Well, one last thing I will say about that, my crew in Port Harcourt, just before, a few years before I left Nigeria finally, the guy who was like the leader of our crew, he had like the best comebacks for everything. So when we had one of those uncles, because everybody's uncle was our uncle, so when they started throwing that, look at you people, you in the evening, you're sitting down there, you with a bottle of beer, yeah? I know I want to take our beer from us and go drink it, but look at you, yeah? Young man, yeah, but look at you. When I was your age, I had like 5 jobs already. And he's like, uncle, I don't know why you're complaining, but we'll buy you the beer if you want to drink the beer. But you know, we're just trying to be like you. When we grow up, we're just trying to be like you. That's why every time he says that, you just see the man change. You know what? I don't have your time today. I don't have your time. Every time he says that, like, Uncle, I don't know why you're complaining. You know, we're just trying to be like you when we grow up. That's how we are trying to be.
We have similar things. We have these similar, when I was your age kind of jokes we give with our brothers and cousins. You know, some of them go like, when I was your age, I would wake up before the alarm went off. I would go to work, finish all my duties, come back home before the alarm was set off. Yeah. When I was your age, I could, I would marry a woman and get 4 kids within a year. Not worry, we have all these weird when I was your age kind of jokes that we say with my cousins when and a couple of friends that we kind of have similar experiences that we just laugh around with. But that's really cool. Yeah. That's really cool. Yeah.
So moving on, you said when you were around 13.
Yes.
You got a life eye-opening moment. And around that time, did you have like a different goal about who you wanted to be career-wise? I like asking that because, it's fascinating. If you ask me who I wanted to be when I was 13, 14,
I really
15.
wish anybody could see your facial expression as you mentioned, because you remind me of all these uncles that career-wise. What did you want to be, my brother?
Hey, that's how they always hit me.
Yes. Yeah, so what is your future like when you look at it now? Brother, I wanted to be a journalist.
Fascinating.
But pause.
Okay.
Backtrack a few months, actually a year before that, I actually wanted to be an engineer.
Which is what the parents would have expected. From the big 5.
Backtrack 3 or 4 years before that, I wanted to be a doctor.
Okay, still from the big 5.
Before that, I wanted to be like an aeronautical engineer. But
that still falls under the big 5. So that's acceptable.
I'm going to recommend, and I'm going to commend you, brother, because you asked me about my career ambitions as a teenager, right? Because I know, and you probably know this, that our experiences as people of African origin, based on the experience that we've had, so many of our career ambitions in our childhood are ambitions of our fathers
Yeah.
and our ambitions of our uncles and our mothers that
Yeah.
want us to be these supernatural human beings based on what they want, because for whatever reason. But yes, as a teenager, at the point that I started to understand what was going on around me, I wished to become a journalist. I felt like, I became very interested in reading newspapers. I actually learned a lot of English just by reading newspapers.
I think I think the same thing might have happened to me without my realizing it too, because my mom used to bring home about between 4 and 7 newspapers every day from work. Because the government she was a senior civil servant, so they always had newspapers at the office. So she brought that home.
Same as university. Yeah. That's the same as university.
So I would be reading. I started from the back page because it was more exciting. Yeah. There were cartoons on the back page, so I read the cartoons. And after I finished all the cartoons, then it was like, okay, what else? And then I started reading sports, and then from sports, I was like, I need foreign news. From foreign news, well, maybe I should read what's happening in Nigeria, and then that's how I started. Getting into newspapers, but yeah, that's how I started. But I'm curious, who were did you have anyone who inspired you in the journalism field, or was it just from newspapers that you were inspired?
It actually was from newspapers. We didn't have a television. We didn't have any sort of. We only had audio news reporting, but that didn't appeal to me as much.
Okay.
I preferred the kind of reading about the news, because that was accompanied with pictures and all that. We used to watch TV at our neighbors, but that, there's that 30-minute segment of news that it didn't really appeal to me so much, because that was very brief and edited to like a very minimal aspect of it. I preferred reading, because I also would use that in my writing. I would use that in my composition, they call them. Composition is where there's the essay. They call them the essays that you write.
We did a lot of
so I would use the vocabulary, the expressions that they used to kind of expand my composition. So that was my fascination with journalism, because that was where I felt like I was learning so much. One of my favorite pieces to read was by a Kenyan writer called Wahome Mutahi. He called himself the Whispers. I remember distinctly, he had glasses on. And Wahome Mutahi used to have a column on Sundays called Whispers. And he would basically use satire to relate to what was going on around the country. So I knew that if, for example, there was a big scandal, then Wahome Mutahi would use that kind of satire and use it in his household to talk about the things that was going on in the country.
So you got to understand satire pretty early.
I think I do. But also, I feel like satire. I feel like satire, if you don't understand the cultural connections with it, then you will lose it. You kind of just look at it as some sort of humor, right? And so it almost won't make sense to you. Or if it makes sense, you will not realize it's satire, right? For example, if a lot of times when I read satire that's connected to some Western stories, if I don't understand the political connotations to it, I just think it's a beautifully written kind of piece, right? So Wahome Mutahi was one of them. I'm going to mention one from Nigeria, and this is one of my favorite stories I've ever read. It's by Ken Saro-Wiwa. Africa Kills Her Son. Africa Kills Her Son is one of my favorite ever stories to read. And it's about this gentleman who's been sentenced to death, and he's writing this letter to his wife and just talking about his final account to life and what's going to happen to him, and what message to send out to the world, and which unfortunately turns out to be a true story.
It's kind of like he was predicting his own what will
Yeah.
happen to him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
you know the
So,
sad
so
thing
those are-
is that, you know, I started off with reading, but I went because with time I stopped getting newspaper access, so I wouldn't continue on the reading part as because it will only be sports papers I'll be getting later on when I will have to I'll start living with other family members. But I had a transistor radio and I found AM, so I became the nerd who was not even listening to FM stations. I was listening to AM stations because I could travel around the world with AM.
Oh, wow.
So I was into AM, but in a way it also destroyed something in me because I wasn't like you had local journalists and then you found Ken Saro-Wiwa. I didn't know Ken Saro-Wiwa until he got murdered.
Really?
I didn't know him until the trial, and I was like, why are they putting a man from because formerly we're from the same state until they split our state into two, and then we became from different states, but we were technically from the same state. And I'm like, why is Abacha going after him? It didn't make sense to me, you know. But I hadn't been reading all his stuff, so it's after he got killed that I started knowing about his work, because I was always listening to foreign news, and then that's how I started developing the mindset that if you are into journalism or anything like that, the only way you sound professional is if you sound white, because it's only white people listening to. So that's how my lack of confidence in my own voice began.
The whiter you sound, the more appealing you will be to the rest of the world.
So
apparently.
so my voice, that's how I began to disregard my own voice, because even when I had a chance twice to go on state radio and state TV. Once someone wanted to put me on stage because it was like, this guy, I just like the way you talk about sports. Come, let me go put you on my friend's show. I was like, I don't sound like people on BBC. No.
If you don't sound like BBC,
same thing with radio, and I panicked. And when I was in my early 20s, I panicked, and I couldn't. And that's how I froze. You know, it would take years, decades later until I do my therapy, go through all that, and then I'm find the confidence to start doing my podcasting. So that's how long it would take me to finally be here. But so that's why the moment you said journalism, that's why I had to zero in on that. It was so great for me to hear that, and I'm really proud that even at that age you found you recognize people from home and their talent and satire. I don't even know when I started recognizing, because I used to read. I don't know how come, or I don't know how, but there used to be a lot of Reader's Digest everywhere in lots of places that I found myself at in Nigeria. It's like a lot of business establishments seem to have Reader's Digest, and I would just read through it. And it's now as an adult that I began to realize that a whole lot of stuff I read was satire.
Actually, now that you mention it, I do remember Reader's Digest.
Reader's
Digest. I always read. I would sneak into the library and read all these outdated Reader's Digest.
Yep. It was always outdated stuff.
They are full.
So, I don't even remember the last time.
Donations that several months later.
I don't remember the last time I saw that publication. I don't know if they're still in. I don't know if they still make them.
It's still around. But that would be an interesting, memory to revisit. I like that you mentioned that. Thank you, man.
Yeah, that was another thing that I read from. So before we go further, let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we shall dive more closer to the present and begin to touch on because we've already opened the portal into your creative juice. So we now know where the creative juices come from. So we'll dive into the present and then hit the more of the creativity. Hi everyone, your host Raphael Harry here. I can't believe we have gone past our 1-year anniversary of doing White Label American. I've had the privilege of speaking with some amazing people, sharing their modern day immigrant stories. And you've allowed this Nigerian immigrant to share parts of his immigrant journey through this podcast. Also, one of my goals of this podcast is breaking down artificial walls that keep people from getting to understand each other. based on your wonderful feedback over the last year, I think we have done a decent job in breaking down some of those walls. We would like to continue and expand on this mission, but we need your help. I've had an amazing time creating and producing episodes for this show largely on my own. We have a lot of ideas for new and exciting content to expand upon the mission, but we need direct support from you, our listeners, which is why we have created a White Label American Patreon page where you can make a one-time donation or become a sustaining contributor where you can get access to exclusive content, help me interview upcoming guests by submitting questions, and even have the chance to sit down with me for a one-on-one conversation, either virtually or in studio. So if this podcast means something to you, and if you really love this show, think about becoming a sustaining contributor and donating by going to patreon.com/whitelabelamericans.pod. Thanks for listening and for the privilege of your company. Okay, welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. Appreciate all of you. So, your journey, we're going to jump forward a bit. Your journey has took off in Nairobi, Kenya, and you are not limited to just Kenya. You decided to take, now you're based outside of Kenya. How did all that come about, and how did you, decide to cross that ocean? You crossed a large amount of the ocean to get to where you are. So how did that happen?
Dude, I crossed the Indian Ocean and went to the rest of the world. I got interest in travel at the age of 21. At the age of 21, I got fascinated by sports, right? So I went to university. Mm-hmm. Do you know what? That's a lie. That's a big lie. At the age of 13, as I told you, we moved to a different province. And there was one time we had trials for what's it called? For running, athletics. Okay. And it was the 5,000 meter race. So I used to be a middle distance runner. And I remember I had zero practice, zero. I was barefoot. Our field was full of rocks and, it looked like a field. It was round, fair enough. I'm not sure if it was even a 400 meter track. But I remember that we had these trials and they wanted somebody to go and represent our district. First was division. And then, we kind of winged that. Anybody that showed up kind of progressed. Yep. We went to the districts, and the districts were being run in a stadium. And I remember for the trials, we were all, me and this gentleman called Luca, I have no idea where he went. Me and him were like head to head. And I remember Luca asking me, man, have you been training? Like, you're running so fast. And I said, have you been training? I see you every day. Like, when do you train? He said, I've never trained. So me and him were running head to head. It's 5,000 meters, but we're so ahead of plenty of people. There are a few others, as you know, Africans. There are a few other Kenyans that are like 200 meters ahead of us, but it's almost like we're not in the same race. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we progressed. And, that's the day I realized that I can actually be a sports person. If I made it this far without all this training, what is going on with me? But anyway, to answer your question, that is the point when I realized sports can actually take me places. Sports can actually move me from my district to my division to my province to the nationals to international level. Needless to say, I went to university and I developed a passion towards swimming. You will not believe
from running to swimming.
Mm-hmm.
I was not expecting that.
Yeah, man. I know this is a story that not many people have heard. So I represented my university in the East African Swimming Championships. I actually attended three of them. First one I attended was at Makerere University in Uganda, in Kampala.
Mm-hmm.
The second one was at the University of Dar es Salaam in Tanzania. And the third one was in Kenyatta University in Kenya. And so that was my fascination with travel with regard to sports. But the other fascination was also in university, as I was part of a theater group. And what we did is we call it a traveling theater. I don't know if you've got similar in Nigeria, but
yes,
I'm sure you do. So basically,
there was national theater groups, there were state theater groups,
and then there was travel theater. Yeah. So basically, we would take set books.
Well, I think they used different names, but they did travel. They did travel. What was yours backed by the federal or state government?
No, we kind of financed it ourselves.
Oh, okay.
It's
the private ones was much difficult, but they all sourced. There were private ones that existed, but they all got. You try to get patronage from the government, because at the end of the day, the government is the one that gave the
patronage. Yeah. So the patron was because ours was our university travel theater.
Oh yeah,
which actually saw we brought loads of. A lot of very big names in the Kenyan theater scene. We have Walter Mangare, the big ridiculous crew. There's KJ, John Kiarie, who is now a member of parliament. There's Churchill Dambuki, who is one of the biggest comedians in Kenya at the moment. We have the current guy who's actually ahead. He calls himself MC Tricky. And then we have Desagu. We have we have a few other female people that have come up. Gatweri. We got Karao, which is like a popular comedian who acts as a policeman, but is also playing satire around.
Yeah.
So that was a theater group that I traveled with around East Africa. Okay. It was my first journey to Somalia, first journey to Ethiopia, first journey to Uganda. So you
performed in Somalia?
Yeah.
How's that like?
We went very different. I'm not sure if you know, but the Somali staple food is pasta.
No, I don't think I've heard. I don't think I have that in my database. I have some recent stuff I heard about Somalia to my database.
Food is pasta. One of the most you would never imagine. Pasta. Yeah.
Pasta.
No cows, no beef from nowhere, no camel tongue. Pasta.
Wow.
Unbelievable. But anyway, so that was my passion for travel. But when I graduated from university, I went ahead and pursued education. And with education came all these opportunities that came with it. I started working at a school in Nairobi. Then the same idea came to move to Mombasa, which is along the coast of Kenya. And I was working there. And with that kind of exposure, I met so many people that have traveled around the world that are teaching. And so, I just started applying for jobs. And so I moved to Tanzania and I taught in Tanzania as well. And then that journey never stopped, right? Across the Indian Ocean. I remember I applied for a job one time in the afternoon of some day in May, I'm not sure, or April. Yeah. And 2 hours later, I got the call. 3 hours later, 4 or 5 hours later, I was at a cyber cafe. I'm not sure if you guys have cyber cafes.
Yeah,
where you go and the people playing video games in the background.
I used to do overnight browsing at cyber cafe.
And so I was sat there on Skype with people going in the background, going, but I'm doing my Skype interview. And 3 or 4 weeks later, I was on a flight to Bangkok. So that was the incredible story of how I kind of transversed the Indian Ocean to the other end.
So
yeah.
what was your first culture shock on arrival? And arriving to Bangkok.
You
What
mean out of
are you based
out
in
of
Bangkok?
no,
Okay.
actually I lived in
Well,
Bangkok for about 2 years and then I moved to Phuket,
okay.
which
Oh,
is
I had
in
somebody in Phuket. Not he did school there for a while from Finland.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Culture shock. Oh my goodness. I think, I've always believed that Africans are open-minded. Um, I think the people in Thailand are way more open-minded than we are in terms of being liberal. And I'm specifically mentioning Thailand, not other Southeast
Yeah.
Asian countries. But generally, the idea of being open-minded just opened my eyes to so many things that I never, ever, ever imagined I would ever see. Street food is eaten straight out the street. Um, the religions are just tolerated left, right, and
Mm-hmm.
center. People don't even identify with their religions, and if they do, it's no big deal. Um, Sexual orientation is not anybody's business. You'll see ladyboys here and there. You'll see gay people holding hands. It's not a big deal. And so it was a great revelation for me. You're in a train and you will see all these ladies in the shortest miniskirts, so university students, ladies in the shortest miniskirts in the world,
Yeah.
but nobody else is staring at them apart from you. So you look like a pervert. So it was a really great revelation for it's true. Like, you're from Africa where everybody else
I'm
is
laughing
not
because
everybody else, but
you remind me of I was stationed in Bahrain around between 2011 and 2012, and I had the opportunity to go to Thailand for free. And I was like, yeah, that's one of the places I want to go to. Single guy, yeah, free. Everybody's stories, like Navy guys come there, have a great time, party, and all that. And I ran into one of my bosses. He was from a different department. He was a guy who was very fit. He's been in Navy much longer, almost 20 years. But fit black dude. Nobody ever saw him with women. Nobody ever saw him he never had any scandal, nothing. And so, of course, people, if we don't see you chasing women like every other person, the assumption is like, oh, he's gay. Is he gay or he's not gay and all that. But was it our business? Not really. Did it really matter? But he was a cool guy, and he always was cool with me. So he saw me that day, and he was like, hey, where are you heading to? I told him where I was going to. He's like, oh, I'm heading that way. I'll give you a ride. So I was like, what's going on? How's work going? And I was like, oh, I'm thinking of taking a vacation. I work hard. He's like, yeah, we know you work really hard. Yeah, take a vacation. Where you want to go? I was like, oh, I'm thinking of Thailand because since Navy going to pay for anywhere I want to go. He's like, oh, Thailand. And he just had this smile on his face. He was like, Thailand, whatever your fantasies are, it will be fulfilled there, man. That's a great place. And the moment he said that, I was like, oh, hell no, I'm not going to Thailand. I don't know why I just did that. I said, oh, hell no, I'm not going. That's it. But I just let my insecurities just come out of me. I just ruled that out, cancel myself a free trip to a part of the world I should have gone to. And then when I told other people who I didn't have, why I go tell them? I don't even know. But I told, oh yeah, that confirms everything we suspected about this guy and all that. Don't go. I'm like, well, they've been there. I'm the only one who never went. All of them had gone.
Really?
Yeah.
So up to now, you've never been to Thailand?
I've never been. I missed out on a free trip. I went to Finland the next year. Navy paid for me to go to Finland.
Do you know what, brother? When if anything ever happens that you could travel to this part of the world, I would love to welcome you down here. It will.
Oh, it's on my list.
Revolutionize your experience.
Oh yeah, I have to. I have to come there because later on, I started watching. There's this channel, Asian Boss, and they do like street news type of interview people on the street, and every time they interview people on the streets of Bangkok, Phuket, and I was like, this doesn't sound like the type of stuff these people have been telling me about. Like these people don't even. I'm like, that's why I just love when you went with open mindedness. I was like, oh man, I was one
Yeah,
ignorant fool back then. I was like,
yeah.
oh, who did I know in Thailand? Nobody. Yeah, I was just
Dude,
assuming
brother,
everything, and
brother,
yeah,
I will tell you, um, you know, I come from, having grown up in Kenya,
hmm
and I cannot mention Tanzania because that's a different experience for me because I loved Tanzania. And if there's any place in the world I would love to one day retire if I have a significant amount of um, money and I don't have to actually work and just be,
yeah.
I'll probably go and live in Tanzania and I'll take my family with me
Well,
or
where in
whoever wants to
Tanzania?
come with me. Arusha,
Arusha. Oh yeah.
Arusha, right at the
Oh,
foothills of between the foothills of Mount Meru and Mount Kilimanjaro. Ooh, beautiful culture is amazing.
hmm.
But anyway, so my ideology was like I usually look at how safe a place is
Yes.
based on how many women you see walking around at night,
Hmm.
unaccompanied,
Yeah.
just being, holding a handbag, just walking, how many kids can ride their bikes at 7 p.m. along the main highway? I will look at a place and the idea of security, I will look at how many grills they have around their windows. If the place has got grills on the windows so that it looks like whoever lives in there is actually the one in jail, then I know that this place isn't necessarily as safe.
Oh,
I
America
look at
gonna
how
scare you.
safe a place is. Yeah, if a neighborhood has got gate
Yeah.
that is higher than your waistline, you know where it is. And if I'm looking at electric fence all over the place, yeah, if people are not leaving their bikes and cars right outside their gate, if people's shoes are not left outside the doorstep, then I know that that area is not safe. And I kid you not, everywhere I went, it was shoes are outside, bikes are outside. Um, it's amazing. It's amazing. Obviously, it's got its ridiculous share of
Oh no.
tragedies and all that, but
Everywhere
that was
does,
that was a
but
big culture shock for me.
yeah.
Yeah, sorry to go on a
No.
tangent and
That's
kind of
beautiful.
move on.
That's beautiful. But
Thank you, brother.
I wish there's still a lot more I have to ask, but unfortunately, we don't have enough time to go into all the questions that I have to ask you. So I'll break it down to four questions. Hit us with your creativity. How did you embrace your creativity from being a teacher to going into um, creative, embracing photography, videography,
Mm-hmm.
your voice? Yeah, because you were into journalism, reading, the reading part of
Right.
journalism and writing from
Mm.
childhood. So how did you go into all these other things, and how did you become comfortable with that?
So 2012, when I got married to my wife, I realized that I didn't, when during preparations towards marriage, when you sit down with your spouse and you start looking at photos of you as a child, you realize that I don't have that many photos of me as a child.
Mm.
Hang on. I only have two photos of me as a child. One of them, I was like 7 months old with the biggest head. It was my head was bigger than the sofa, back of the sofa, right? My mother always made fun of me that I couldn't sit
Ah,
up, even
oh
at the age
man.
of 9. Like I'm sitting like this. I will try and share that photo with you one day. So when you look at that photo, I have my head like very. I really need to share this with you. As when you're asking me the next question, I'll share it with you. And it's me at around several months, and I can't sit up straight. But the biggest tragedy is after that photo, the
Yeah.
next photo of me, I'm probably 6 or 7 years old,
Wow.
and so I don't have any documentation of me from few months old. Obviously, I don't have any photo of me as a absolute toddler. I only have that
Yeah.
big photo of my head with saliva running down on the corner of my mouth. Or then the next one is me at around 5 to, like, I can't remember how old I was. Then the next one is like 11. So, and then in my teenage years, that's when you start being cool and you realize that you can actually get money and pay for your own photos and all that. Or somebody caught you out in a field somewhere and you took a photo and showed it to your dad, and then your dad thinks it's cool, but after he's given you a few whacks on the back saying, why are you playing in the garbage? But this is a good photo of you. So that kind of opened my eyes, because I'm looking at my wife and I'm thinking, why? My fiance at that time, I'm thinking, you have so much to share. I have nothing. And she couldn't believe it. But I also understand why. Man. I also understood that, my father, to him, it didn't appear that was such a big deal. But also, photography was expensive.
It was
from where I was, and if you take a photo today, you have to wait like 2 weeks before the film.
Yes, 2 weeks.
And sometimes it would burn.
Even in 2000,
kind of disappear.
I remember it was I don't know, 99 was the first time I paid for a photo myself, my own photo. When I paid my own money, it was 2 weeks later. You got it back, and not all of them were good quality, because that's when you're like, man, you took a terrible photo. You didn't take a good photo. Like,
you waited for it. I
kind of go back.
Got a haircut.
I got a haircut. Put on my oversized suit. Came out in this, and then, God dang it, this dude, you can't even get mad properly.
So it was during that preparation that that was the preparation that actually got me thinking, I really need to start documenting my life. I need to document my life better. So I bought a camera, somewhere, a secondhand camera. It was like a Sony Cybershot, one of these first digital kind of small photos. And that's how the journey began. Obviously you start experimenting with shots here and there. By the time that our first daughter was being born, I had already started creating some phenomenal. I think they were phenomenal from there, but I guess somebody will look at them and think they were rubbish. But a few people, kind of inspired me. It was the gentleman that took photos at our wedding. Two of them. One of them is Brian Wando, not a big name, but I consider him to be one of the best photographers out there in the world. And the other one is called Vince Njuguna. Vince and Njuguna, both of them do wedding photography, and they're the ones that did photography at our wedding. But one weird thing I realized when a few years later, after having discussed with them, is these people did our wedding as interns. So basically they shot our wedding almost for free, even though that they, we had compensated another gentleman with the same. But that's a story for another day. So that was the journey. It's the idea that I knew that I have nothing. The idea of documenting storytelling, when I told you about my uncles that always told in a previous episode, when I said about my uncles that I always exaggerated stories, and my fondest memories of sitting around my grandmother's in my grandmother's homestead, sitting around the fire and just sharing stories about growing up, or sharing stories about Nairobi. If people were coming from Tanzania and they would share the same. Zero. I have nothing. We have nothing now. And if that is not something for me to inspire me to sort of create something, then I don't know, so that is the journey. And it's I have to mention that it's not as easy, because as you mentioned even yourself, like sometimes you have to diversify your story. So because you mentioned earlier that you started talking about immigrants in America, but then you realize that the immigration is such a vast thing, and the African immigrant is all over. So if you don't diversify the idea of immigration or the African immigrant, then you're sort of missing out on content. Right?
True.
So that was my journey. That was the point where it started, and I also am an educator, and the idea of education cannot just be conformed to one aspect of that tool of work that you You've got to structure whatever expertise you have to sort of channel it towards something that you can grow as a talent. I've always believed that if you only have that aspect of you as a profession and you don't have talent to go with it, there is something in your system that is still yet to come, and you have to go and discover it. So talent doesn't, it's not just a profession. Yeah. You have to have a profession and you have to have talent that goes with it. So even if you're Messi, even if you're Ronaldo, and your talent is, say, a footballer, there's got to be something deep in there that you can do on top of that to go and expound that further.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I knew there was something beautiful coming there. So, final, last two questions, which I just need quick answers on. Favorite cuisine? Because technically I've gone over time. So I don't want George to kick me out of here now. So, favorite cuisine that your favorite cuisine. Where does it come from, and what is it?
This is me being very patriotic to a very specific part of Africa, very specific part of Kenya, very specific part around the shores of Lake Victoria.
All right.
There's a place in Kisumu that makes the best fish in the world.
Okay.
The best fish in the world. There are two types of fish. One is the Nile perch. The other one is the tilapia, deep fried in hot oil. Part of the oil is the tilapia oil. The other one is whatever cooking oil. I don't care. My mother makes this. It's probably the best deep fried tilapia or deep fried Nile perch that you can ever have. You deep fry it first in hot oil, then you take it and then you fry it with tomatoes, and you put the onions, and then you mix it. And you mix it with ugali, which is similar to fufu.
Okay.
But then you gotta mix it with kind of kale, and you kind of douse it, sprinkle it, decorate it with kale. If there's any reasonable word to relate with that, it's probably orgasm. It is orgasm in your system, and I kid you not, the first taste you get goosebumps, the second you get more goosebumps. It's just a concoction of goosebumps. I would not recommend it for people with a weak heart, because you would need CPR when you finish eating, because you'd be out. Yeah. My mother makes the best.
Oh my goodness, this guy.
Deep fried Nile perch, then fried.
Okay.
Deep fried tilapia, then fried.
So do you make it?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Don't ask me how it comes out.
No. I'm not gonna ask. All right. So music. Three. Give us quick answers. 3 artists that keep you dancing for an hour.
When you said dancing or listening, it doesn't. You said dancing.
No, we're not doing listening. We're doing dancing. We're going for a different vibe.
I think Burna Boy.
Man, this
from
guy,
good old Nigeria.
He need to come give me money, because too many people keep calling his name. Although we have a slight disagreement, me and Burna Boy, but it's okay. He's from. We lived in the same estate. Funny enough, in Port Harcourt. He's a Port Harcourt boy. So
really,
yeah. I'll break it down to you one day.
Yeah. I love in Kenya. I love Sauti Sol.
Hey, Sauti Sol. Yeah, I have his music.
I love Nameless. Nameless is an artist. He sings together with his wife.
Yeah, I know that name. Nameless.
Nameless. His name is Nameless.
Yeah, I know. I don't know if I probably might have his song. I have too many. I have artists from everywhere.
Oh, you certainly have heard it. I'm coming home where I belong.
Where is he from?
Don't judge my listening voice. He's from Kenya.
Oh, okay.
He sang.
I don't know why I was thinking South Africa.
No, but he's made. I think he's made a few videos while in South Africa.
Everybody.
Has. No. There is a group from South Africa that actually sang. And they kind of remixed one of his songs. It talks about life. This is my Maisha. Maisha, basically, this is my life.
Okay.
Don't you mess with my Maisha. And the other one is Diamond.
Oh,
Hate it
Diamond.
or love it,
Yes.
Diamond.
Diamond.
He's got
Yeah.
quality music
Yes.
coming from good old Tanzania.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I mentioned 4,
That's
but
fine.
you're gonna have to take 4, brother.
All right. So, final question to wrap it up.
Yes.
Asante Asana for giving me your time, and I appreciate you as always. What would you like to leave the audience with? It could be your mantra that you live by. Could be
Mm.
some extra um, education from the Kikombe Book of
Yeah.
Wisdom, or it could be something from the African daily proverbs that you want to share, or just whatever you want to drop on the audience. This is your freestyle moment.
Brother, first of all, I want to say that I appreciate you because of what you said. You mentioned earlier in our first episode, you mentioned that you had to diversify your ideology of the immigrant story, right? And I cannot lie to you. I feel so guilty that I have listened to your podcast, but I've never given that 5 stars. So this
Hey.
is me. This is me showing, don't laugh. This is actually sad. This is me showing remorse because we say that we've got to support the people that we think are giving value to what we live with, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I haven't done that, And this conversation with you, the more I'm listening to it, the more I'm thinking somebody's going to listen to this and their life will kind of be transformed. And I'm thinking, why would that person not be able to come in here and say, you know what, I appreciate you, and it takes a click? Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
A click. I don't need to pay money. I don't need to send you money and say, oh, brother, you've changed my life. White label American. Yeah, throw some money on it. No, I don't. All I have to do is go and tell you or even send you a message and say, brother, I listened to your podcast. It opened my life to so many things. I listened to your podcast and I appreciate you. Or I listened to the podcast and I don't agree with this. It's changed my life. Now, if I have to leave with anybody who's listening and if I have to share something, is if you're listening to this story, one of my biggest philosophy about being a teacher is that you've got to learn something that will make you a better person to the person that you will interact with. We're living in a really crazy time right now, especially 2020, 2021. This is probably the weirdest time that humanity has ever faced. No one knows what to do. Put the mask on, take off the mask. Oh, get the vaccines. Nobody wears the vaccines. But all that the universe wants us to do is to try not to judge other people. When we judge, we create more conflict. I'm judging myself now, and I'm hoping that you don't judge me with the same. I'm hoping I've got it in me to forgive myself for not having to go put in my reflection of what I listened to from your podcast. Now, as the educator in me, I would like somebody who has ever listened and actually was moved, even if it's for 2 seconds, to acknowledge that this changed their lives to a certain point. I believe in educating people for the purpose of peace. And by peace, I don't mean the idea of not having war, because that is another story for another day. Peace, I mean having a roof on your head because you go to study so that you can become a better person in the society, put the roof over your head or a roof over other people's head. Put food in people's stomach or food in your stomach. Get a good education so that you can transform people's lives and become a better person in the society for the purpose of being a better person in the society. Get good health. And I hope that whatever you learn in here, you and me, my brother Raphael, whatever you learn in here will go and make your health better for days to come.
Oh, it will. Trust me, it will. I appreciate that, my brother.
No worries,
I
brother.
appreciate that. Thank you all the way. So, where can people find you and your work if they want to get in touch? For those who are just hearing about you for the first time.
I'm on Facebook, the Kikombe, Kikombe, the
Yeah, I'm adding
same.
all
I'm
that to
on
the show notes too.
I'm on Instagram as well as the Kikombe, the Kikombe, Kikombe. And that's basically where you can find me. Website is www.dakikombe.com. You can find me in there as well. I'm not sure about my email, but yes, it's dekikombe@gmail.com. Not sure about my phone number. It is not Dekikombe.
That's fine. I think the website is enough. I'll put the website and the social media links on the show notes, and I'll tag.
No worries, brother.
Post on. I'll tag both on social media.
No worries, brother. I've learned so much today, man. I really, really appreciate you, man. I appreciate your team, and I appreciate the patience that you've had with me. It was a crazy day, but I'm here, I've written so many sticky notes. I'm not sure if you can see, but I've got my whole full pleasure of sticky notes. But this is my learning journey. I'm going to call the sticky notes of my White Label American podcast journey.
We love you, and we love the wisdom that you bring to the podcast and to our community, and it's really great and amazing. So to wrap it up, everyone listening, we love each and every one of you. Keep the love coming in. Go put that 5 stars, write a great review. If you have something negative to say, you don't need to write it on Apple. Just send it to me. I'll read it. If it's not useful, hey, I'll toss it. But send it to me. That's fine. I can read it. There are people who do that. That's fine. But don't forget, 5 stars, positive review. Keep the love coming in. Thank you for the privilege of your company. Thanks for listening to White Label American. If you enjoyed the show, we'll appreciate if you rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcast from. If you have any questions, comments, or have someone who will be a good guest on the show, or you want to be on the show, send us a message at whitelabelamerican@gmail.com. And make sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at White Label American. Thank you for your support.